Okay. Excuse me. So, I'm going to keep going. Unfortunately, I'm not able to post on BitChute today, and did want to just sort of shout out BitChute again. I am actually thinking I might just come off YT in the end anyway, because they are supporting me, and actually, I am getting several views over there. So big love and shouts to the beautiful people over in the place where they know really what's happening and what's going on, and I'm one of you, and I really do appreciate that. And so I would kind of encourage any of the subscribers here possibly to go over there, because I'm starting to just to feel I don't know, there's just an edge. There really is. There's an edge over in YT, and it feels a little bit uncomfortable. Anyway, so I just wanted to start this second video with the quote from Krishnamurti, who says, "It is no measure of health to appear well in a very toxic society." Okay. And, that's where it really gets difficult. And I felt I was so kind of honoured to bump into an old friend quite recently on a walk the other day. And she has always very much as well been brave enough to endure and enjoy her own health journey and processes, and be brave enough to do it, and to do it alone, and to actually go through it, and to go through the level of purging that you actually do have to go through. There really is no way through the toxicity. You just have to get it out. Okay, so it is a purge there, and there will be a significant amount of purges, okay, in lots and lots of different ways. In sound, in shaking, in, spots, in whatever's happening in your bowels, and ideally you're going to be doing lots of actual detoxing as well. And that means that it's a colonic cleanse, okay? And I personally don't recommend colonics themselves. Water-based colonics, I actually think are a little bit harsh. I very much recommend, and it seems that there are several things. I'm not going to endorse any of them because I haven't tried them personally, but I keep seeing these kind of oxygen-based sort of, capsules and things like that you can get on the market now that seem to really help to get stuff moving in the gut and get stuff out. The thing is it isn't just about taking a shit, okay? It is about cleansing the accumulated debris that has literally stuck to the inside of this very, very large organ, okay, which is about 26 feet in length, and it's been squeezed into, your abdominal cavity, okay? So there are, just so many twists and turns, okay? And if you're eating food that really shouldn't, or let's say it this way, isn't easily biodegradable, then you're going to be having a problem. And, I'm going to come back to this idea of diarrhea, for instance, because a lot of people, and I've often had, on retreat, like I've said, I think probably in at least one video, I do talk to people a lot about their bowels, okay, and their bowel movements. And so quite often I have people who say, oh, yeah, don't have a problem in that area. They just don't want to really talk about it. And so they're just kind of like, yeah, don't have a problem in that area. In fact, I've got the opposite problem. Okay, well, the opposite problem is actually the same problem. And if you've got diarrhea, the likelihood is it's extreme constipation and it's an impacted colon, basically. What's actually happening is that what we have come to know as mucoid plaque is attaching itself to the inside of the colon, and it's just getting thicker and thicker. Okay, and so where you might, what's the size of a bowel movement? Okay, that's essentially the inside of your colon. Can sometimes be stretched. It's a fine mucosal membrane. Okay, and it can be stretched. It's probably not quite as big as sometimes, if somebody's had a lot of fibre and they've just had an enormous poo. So what actually happens is, because it's so impacted, that the actual hole in the colon becomes very, very small. Okay, so what's actually happening is that you're not really able to push out a formed movement. And as a result of the impacted sort of debris, what you're experiencing is an extremely, extremely dehydrated colon that has very little movement, and probably, because of the impactedness, probably no real peristaltic motion. Okay. Now, you might be lucky enough that if you maybe have made an effort over the years to kind of give up a little bit of coffee, or whatever your morning poison is that kind of evacuates the bowel. If you over the years have given it up, then it maybe still works for you. And actually, when you have a coffee, you have a purge. Okay, that isn't true for everyone. Okay, so just putting that out there. So I really started on my health journey about 95, I guess you could sort of say. It was kind of when I started getting into yoga, and it was. And then in 96, I actually went into a very deep depression. Well, I say very deep. I mean, I'm not prone to depression. It isn't really something that I have experienced very much, thank goodness. And I know it's a very complicated and very difficult situation for people to go through. So I don't want to lessen it. But I myself kind of went through really my only depression that I've ever experienced, because when I went through that depression, I suddenly said to myself, like, what's going on? What's going on here? And I wasn't satisfied to not know what was going on. Okay. And that, I think, is the difference. It's some people will just be in a state of dis-ease, of unwellness, and they don't question it. They just sort of go to the doctors, or they just kind of go even deeper into a depression or something like that. Number one thing I'm going to say to you, because I have already said you are your own doctor, and I very, very much recommend that you don't go to the doctor, because honestly, they don't know what's wrong with you. They literally have no idea. What they can do is they can prescribe medication that they sort of believe in to a certain extent, and that, possibly has had some results. But they don't understand how to really make you well. What will make you well if you go to the doctors and you have to have a stay in hospital is the fact that it's not the GP. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the nurses and the doctors and the, all the other medical staff and the non-medical staff that they have in hospitals are incredible people that just love humanity, and they just have, huge hearts, most of them. It's a generalization. I don't know, because I don't know all of them, but I have met several of them through different for different reasons. And it's their belief. Okay, really the only thing you need in healing is a pure intention. Okay, It's just to believe. It's just to, to know that you're going to be well. Okay. And that is really essentially what conventional medicine really works by, really operates by. So I wasn't satisfied to just be depressed, to just be ill. And so I went looking, and in those days we had libraries, and that was all we had. So I went to the health section and I found this little book. It was just tiny, and I've never been much of a big reader, so I chose that one. And it just blew my mind, honestly, because it was just in a nutshell, essentially. And it just said that, things, if we're putting foods, substances and toxins into our bodies, then we can't expect them to operate in an optimal way. Okay. And it really broke down, the different types of foods. The big one I got from that, I can't really remember what it said about meat, because at that time I was already vegetarian. I'd been vegetarian anyway since I was 16. And I decided to become vegan, okay, because one of the big ones that it was saying was that dairy, and in particular, now we've come to learn, it's the homogenized and pasteurized dairy. So raw dairy is actually okay, and it's actually quite a good beneficial bacteria food. So I gave up dairy and I went on a vegan diet. Now, at that time, I didn't know as much about sugar and carbs and things like that. So, I was still having those things. And, I guess I was lucky enough in that really the reason that kind of giving up the dairy worked for me was because I had always been lactose intolerant, very much so. As a baby, I wasn't able to, I wasn't actually even offered the breast. Okay, so that's a trauma in and of itself that many of us are holding. And those are the sorts of things that you're going to discover on your health journey, which is essentially meant to be. It's not meant to be something that you're running away from going, no, I can't do it. I don't want to. Don't make me do it. And don't say that I'm, not well kind of thing. I mean, I really was toxic. Okay. And because I grew up in an American household, and really more than that, it was a military household, and it was, in the military and things like that. They actually, it always have done, being all about convenience kind of thing, particularly obviously it's kind of started, I suppose, with troops going off, to war kind of thing, because they need convenience foods and things like that. So, that's where you get kind of frozen meals and, microwave this and all that kind of stuff. And so I grew up in that kind of household, and I was a sugar addict without a doubt. I'm not a sugar addict in any way, shape or form anymore. I mean, I literally cannot put sugar in my body. And even if it's something that has sugar in it and I don't know, I will know as soon as I've put it in my mouth, because I just get a headache instantly. Okay. And that's the difference between just kind of having sugar every now and then and actually giving it up. Okay. It can take quite a while. I mean, I did kind of give it up more or less, thought I'd given it up. But I could have it just every now and then. I would just at Christmas, I might just have a Ferrero Rocher, or, at Easter, I might just have a little bit of I was just having the cheap chocolate, that kind of thing. That was really the only way I was. But these days, I can't bear cheap chocolate. I mean, there's nothing worse. And there was never anything worse than American chocolate anyway, really, honestly. But I do eat raw chocolate, okay, and raw cacao. And that was something that I'd given up on my journey. And I very much had to give it up because when, in 1995, 96, they didn't have raw cacao, okay. That didn't actually come in until 2005. Or I certainly didn't have it until that date. And so that was 10 years that I lived without chocolate, because obviously chocolate has got dairy in it. Oh, obviously, I guess I could have had dark chocolate. I don't know. I don't think I did. I sort of went into carob kind of thing, and and didn't have that very often because they don't really make it very nice. So I went on a vegan journey, and I was very much on that journey, and moved to London and lived in London for several years, coming up to a decade, and that kind of thing, and that actually made it so much easier to be vegan because you have your whole foods, you have your Planet Organics, you had even Holland and Barrett or whatever, there were healthy and lots of independent health food shops as well. But, we also had the big kind of sort of supermarket styles. And so I was very much, on this vegan diet. And then we moved to the country. So then I had my son. And it was actually when I got pregnant was when I decided to give up alcohol. Now, I had, again, I had lived quite a toxic kind of lifestyle, teens and 20s with, the usual kind of cigarettes and alcohol kind of thing. And actually was aware at around the age of 24, just kind of coming out of university or whatever, that I had gotten into this kind of state where just every day, at the end of the day, I was like, oh, let's go and have a drink, oh, need a drink, And so even just in those few years of drinking alcohol, I became aware that, if there's one thing that's easy to become, it's an alcoholic, okay? And I think we allow alcoholism in a very sort of socially acceptable way, okay? And I am going to go down the road of alcohol. I said on one video that I wasn't going to go down that road because I didn't really have much to say on it. I got a lot to say on it, okay? And I am going to probably do one on that, and maybe not just specifically, but maybe it will be. Okay, so I just want to I'm going to have to kind of wrap it up a little bit. Probably going to get stopped, and that has happened in the program. Moved to the country with our son and decided through that time to go raw vegan. Now, that was a huge detox process, and it was almost too much, actually. It was too much at the time. And I wasn't really appreciating it either because it was quite difficult. I was trying to bring up our son raw vegan, and that was proving to be quite difficult. But managed to keep him sugar-free until about the age of 4. Okay, so I feel quite confident about that, and I'm quite pleased. Hopefully, in terms of his health stress picture as he gets older, that he at least had that very good sort of foundation in his digestion, whereas I just didn't at all. I was put on formulas and went from one formula to the other, trying to find one that worked, and then in the end I ended up with a soya formula, and I wonder, probably it was packed full of sugar. I just don't know. So, went down the raw vegan journey for a while. And again, it's definitely not something that I at all endorse or recommend or anything really now as a long-term lifestyle. However, what I have come to realise is I am predominantly vegan, but I do eat a little bit of meat. And I'll talk more about that in the next video. I really appreciating the whole vegan movement because it just makes my life a lot easier in terms of finding, foods just in regular stores and things like that. It's really, really easy, really helpful. But I don't necessarily endorse veganism forever. Okay, well, now I don't endorse anything forever because ultimately forever I endorse breatharianism, and I endorse dematerialization, and I endorse becoming a being of light. And I endorse, total, what do I call it? Health deconstruction. And it takes several years. And in fact, once you get to that place, there really is nowhere else to go. I mean, well, there's many more places to go ultimately. But what I'm saying is, when you really, really have gotten yourself into quite a light state, but obviously not one where you're able to dematerialize yet. And will I meet it in this lifetime? I don't know, honestly. I didn't think so. I had gone along my whole journey thinking that isn't ever going to happen in this lifetime until last year with the CV-19, okay, and the extreme states that they're going to sort of suppress our brilliance, okay, and our human potential, well, our natural man and woman potential, okay, because it is vast and none of us have even begun to tap into it. And it really just starts with who you are and where you are in this moment now, okay? You can't start any other way. Sometimes you'll hear things you don't want to hear, okay? And it's pretty ugly, actually. But unfortunately, that is the essence of the Piscean age that we are just coming through and coming from. It's about the sort of deep, dark, watery realms of illusion and delusion, okay? And if you haven't been sort of forced out of your delusion through this whole process, whatever that is, okay, it could be believing in the medical establishment and the government and all the rest of it. If that hasn't happened yet, then it certainly will happen within the next year, I would think. And like I said, it isn't an easy journey necessarily. It can feel like a very lonely one, but more and more people are waking up. So it should be a lot easier for you. And I am going to be here with these videos for a certain amount of time. However, one of these days, I am going to stop talking because I realise that actually doesn't really, truly help anyone. It only helps me to process, okay? So I haven't really had a chance to introduce Healy, so I'm going to do that in the next video and just go a little bit more into kind of my more recent health journey, okay, which I believe is the way forward. So we'll leave it there again for now and look forward to speaking to you later.